Hey everybody, it's me, Alex, once again, and today we're going to be talking about Panzer Dragoon. Now, I've talked about it before with the Panzer Dragoon Saga review, but I never really talked about it in general. Um, so let's just start off with the original Saturn games, and I do, thankfully, have all three. Yes, Panzer Dragoon Saga as well. You've seen the collection video, probably, but regardless of that, so what is so significant about this franchise? Well, first, the first game was a launch title for the Sega Saturn, and sorry if it's really reflective. I have it in this protective plastic casing, so if any smoke damage gets on it, water damage, whatever, it will be pretty okay because these games are expensive, especially Saga. So what is it? It's an on-rail shooter, and it's described as unique on current platforms like the PlayStation 4 or 5, Xbox, all that stuff, Switch. And really, they should have just called it a rail shooter, but at the same time, it's like a rail shooter, but you can look around all four directions with the trigger buttons or some of the face buttons that turn you. The face button turning is a little weird. I don't understand that. So basically, it's Star Fox with a dragon, which is awesome, and you just shoot enemies, and it's very satisfying. And there's about seven levels, maybe? I can't remember how many there are in the original or Zwei, because it's been a while since I've beaten these games, except for the remake of Panzer Dragoon 1. So, it's a pretty good game, especially for 1995, I think it was, this came out in the States. It's a pretty good game. I mean, does it hold up well today? Yeah, not too bad. Graphically, not so much, but the gameplay is pretty fun. It's a little bit stiff and a little imprecise for my liking, which is why I like the remake a lot more. So that's awesome. And let's talk about the remake real quick before we move on to Zwei, because this will all come together. Now, when it comes to the original, they did remake it, and wow. At first, it wasn't that good. I guess some control issues were apparent in the Switch version. I feel like that game was rushed out, to be honest, to give Nintendo some kind of leverage on an exclusive for a little bit until it got to every other platform, well deservedly. And I was like, okay, cool. We already had hints about it to begin with. I couldn't think of any franchise. So that was cool. We got a remake. It looks beautiful, especially on PS4 Pro, PS5, Xbox One X, Xbox Series. It looks great. 60 frames per second. The resolution is just so crisp. It's really damn nice for a $25 remake. Now, people might be thinking, well, Alex, this is just a rail shooter. $25 is asking a lot for a pretty short rail shooter, because you can beat this game about an hour or two. This costs like $100+ or so, 150 or so. So would you rather get the original with not so good graphics and pretty good gameplay, or would you rather get the remake with amazing visuals, quality of life changes, and a better aiming system, in my opinion? In my opinion, this is post-patch stuff, so it could have been different at launch. So I was really excited about the remake, and now we move on to our next title, Zwei. Panzer Dragoon 2 Zwei. This one was a little more expensive, around the $200 mark, and it's better than the original. I will admit that. I did have to cheat because I suck at these kind of games, so I did do the Pandra's box stuff, auto fire and what's the other thing? The infinite health thing. Yeah, I suck at these. So except for the original game remake, they made that a little easier, I noticed. So this game is better than the first one in a lot of ways. Graphically, looks much better, and the controls a lot better. And the variety of how you play it, because it's still a non-rail shooter, but you can fly, you can run on the ground and shoot, and there's different pathways you can take, and the bosses are a little cooler, and the environments, again, are just really nice for the Sega Saturn. And right now, there is a remake of this one in the works. It was supposed to come out last year, in 2021, and it didn't. It didn't even get any updates. This game just went dark. And that kind of scared me a little bit at first, because I was thinking, oh god, did the Panzer Dragoon remake not do well enough and they're just going to say, yeah, screw it, we're not going to do it? Apparently not, because apparently the remake did sell very well. Also, thanks to yours truly, because I bought like 4 or 5 copies of the fucking game. Because I want to make sure this actually gets a successful trilogy remake. So, this is still in the works. I feel like it's going to be announced in June of this year, and it's going to release in fallish of this year as well. That's my only, like, not guess. Yeah, it's my only guess, I should say. Because there really isn't much news about this game other than the fact that it just kind of dropped off the face of the earth. I feel what happened was they were working on it, and then Sega came in and said, "Hey, we want you guys to do a House of the Dead remake." And these guys are the same guys that made the Panzer Dragoon remake, so they probably had to pause or just kind of slow production down on this Vi remake to focus on House of the Dead because it's a bit more popular than Panzer Dragoon. Let's be honest here. And they did a pretty good job with that. You know, it was $25, not too bad. And someday I'll pick it up. I'm not a big, like, House of the Dead fan, so I'm like, okay, cool. You got that out there. Now the Saturn version is preserved in a modern format because, holy shit, the Saturn version is expensive beyond all hell. It's ridiculous. And it's not even that great of a port, to be honest. Now the big deal as to why these remakes need to happen and succeed is for one title called Panzer Dragoon Saga. Now, this is one of the best Sega Saturn games to grace the system, and in general of that generation. And it's fun. Like it's a linear JRPG. Battle system's not too bad. I like it. It's simple, but it's like its resemblance to the main gameplay from the first two is very noticeable, which I like. And it's not a hard game per se. Hopefully, if they remake it, hopefully they add like a difficulty mode and maybe add some more extra stuff to do in different areas. People like to criticize this game a lot now for some reason for, you know, bad model quality and not a lot of environments to go to, and it's too short. And I'm thinking, well, remember, this is the Saturn era where Sega was like bleeding, and these guys that made this game have never made an RPG. And this RPG was, I believe, the first to incorporate like proper 3D like towns and areas to explore, rather than what Final Fantasy VII did a year prior, where it would just be like a flat ground with pre-rendered graphics over it, and you would just control above rather than behind the shoulder like most JRPGs do now. So you got to give them credit for that, for being the first, or one of the first, I want to say the first, to pull that off, and doing it very well, mind you. And the character models themselves, they are a bit rough around the edges, but we have to remember that this is the Sega Saturn, and people will say, well, there are better examples of the game looking better on the Sega Saturn in terms of 3D stuff. I don't know. For as demanding as this game is, for the 4 discs that's in, I'd say it did pretty damn well in terms of the graphical fidelity, especially all the CG cutscenes, and just the story itself is interesting, but it's also very confusing. Because the problem is the text goes by so fast in this game, you might not catch it the first time. You might have to play it a few times, or go online and get a, what's it called, guide or something like that, or a story analysis. And yeah, it's a great game. I mean, like, it's one of the best games out there ever made. Like, but should I put it like in God tier, status? Maybe not. Like, this is the Saturn's Final Fantasy VII in terms of it, like, its like scope and quality, and it was really much the last hurrah for the Saturn. And yeah, it's a great game, and it needs to be remade. Now, again, this whole video was pretty much talking about why that game in particular needs to be remade. Panzer Dragoon 1, we're all set. That's remade. You know, you can easily get to it. It's not a big problem at all. There's Vi coming out eventually. That's also awesome. Now we have to make sure that game does well, because if it doesn't, I have this bad feeling that they're not going to go to Saga and do something about that. And we need Saga to be remade so we can actually be accessible to a newer generation of people, and just in general, because the game only had 30,000 units in the United States. Yeah, you could say emulation is the way. It is for that game right now, but, you know, it just, some people don't like to emulate, and they'd rather have an official way to buy and play the game. And I'd rather have an official way to buy and play the game. So hopefully, even if they have to do it from the ground up, they can do it. It's not a big game, so I'm not saying, oh, this will be easy. Just, just do this and that. Make the graphics better. No. According to the, sources, I don't know what sources those be, but pretty much everybody says that the code was lost, and then we're having the director say it may be lost. It may still exist somewhere. So who knows? Maybe they did find the code and they're actually remaking it. I really don't know. If we were going to get a Saga remake, I wouldn't expect it until 2024 or so, because you have to get this Vive remake out, and then it would take a couple years, maybe 3 years, to possibly remake it from the ground up. Get some extra help in or something like that. I mean, it's not like 1998 where it was like a small team of people that were being crunched beyond all hell and going through health issues, and one committing suicide because of the crunch and all the chaos that was going on in this game's development. So I think a remake is possible. Now, there are people saying, oh, this wouldn't sell very well at all, because it's only a few of us nutcases that would enjoy such a game will only buy it. No one else ever would. I imagine people said that in there because they're saying, well, because Panzer Dragoon 1 and 2 are on-rail shooters, so they appeal to more people. I think RPGs appeal to a lot more people now than on-rail shooters do. Maybe in the 90s, that was a lot different. Early 90s anyway. But now it's mostly people are into RPGs. So when people hear, okay, another Panzer Dragoon remake, all right, on-rail shooter, whatever. And then when they hear about a third game being remade, Panzer Dragoon Saga Remake, which would be amazing, they'll be like, oh, it's an RPG. Oh, all right, well, it's a Dragon with an RPG. Maybe I'll check it out. Don't underestimate Sega fans. I'm not like a massive, Sega diehard or anything, because I didn't grow up with Sega, but I respect what they've done, the good things anyway. So, yes, this game deserves a remake beyond most other games that I know about because of its fate. Look up its history with what happened with Panzer Dragoon Saga, and you're going to be like, holy shit. So, again, buy the remake for Panzer Dragoon right now as we speak until June 2nd of this year. It's on sale for $2.49 on the PS4 anyway. It'll be on all platforms. Go ahead and buy it. Buy 4 or 5 copies of the game like I did. Even though that's a waste of money, but don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Just go and support it so we can get our good games. You know what I mean? Anyway, my name is Alex, and I'll be seeing you next time. Farewell.